If you could find a performance coach for me who was a therapist, I would go to him in 2 seconds, but he has to understand that bills must get paid no matter how I fucking feel about it. Go look at sweatshops all over the world. The world dehumanizes men. Often when you do what a woman asks, she will punish you for it.
Welcome to Therapy JA. Each week we interview different people who are advocates as experts in their field. And the purpose of it is to just remove the stigma of mental health and also to kind of just normalize conversations on it. We do not give advice. We are just an advocacy group. We just discuss issues as well as, provide resources for people who are interested in that. So this week I have someone who is, I would say, a really good performance coach. He has been, would you consider yourself a performance coach, Mike?
Yeah, performance coach is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, so he's a performance coach and he's very much a good performance coach. And so he has been, how long have you been doing it for? Like I'd say over 7 years now. I think you've been doing it for a while.
No, I started in 2008. As far as like a performance coach, like strictly where we had a program set up, that's been 4 years. But you're talking about since I've been coaching in this arena, it was 2008. So that's been 15 years.
So yeah, I would say you're an expert. You over 10 years is where you're close to like mastery. So you consider yourself an expert on it. Absolutely. So I remember you when you wrote that that article about like women needs therapy, and I understood 100% where you were coming from with it. Yeah. So I remember I was because every week I interview different therapists, different like experts on that field, and I was telling them the idea, and some agreed. Some agreed. If, as I said, I live in the Caribbean and I have a lot of friends who are in the Caribbean and Latin America, and most men hate therapy. Most men.
I don't hate therapy. What I said was, and a lot of people had some issue with this, is that men have a burden of performance that women don't have in general. Not some women do have a burden of performance. So don't get me wrong. If you're an attorney, if you are, but what the reason why you have a burden of performance as a woman is because you're in a male dominated job generally. Now, unless we're talking about even a WNBA player, like for when women in general, when they're very attractive, they don't have a burden of performance like a man does. They have a burden of performance, but it's not the same. Yeah. If you go to a therapist for a woman and you go to a therapist for a man, a therapist for a woman can say, here's what we do to get you into the perfect emotional state. And those things are effective and those things are useful. But when we have the same therapist go to a man and say, we need to get you in the perfect emotional state, he's like, but I have to also run this company and perform. That's why I'm a performance coach, perform to a certain level. And my statement was, if you have a therapist who is so woke and egalitarian that he treats men the same way he treats women, he's not a good therapist. And as a man, you probably shouldn't see him, because as a man, no matter what your therapist tells you, you're not special and you always have a burden of performance. That's what I was trying to say about it. So
I agreed what you're saying, and I understand. So I wasn't saying that you hate it's an indictment on that. It was just someone a counselor I was speaking to was remarking on how difficult it was to counsel men because of that. It's an ego thing. A lot of men, they don't want to go to a therapist because their thing is, who are you to tell me what I'm doing with my life? You know what I mean? So there was a difficulty in it. So I think you touched on a point that I feel like some men can relate to. And yes, 100%, even without me reaching out and interviewing therapists each week, the majority are women. It's very difficult and rare to find male therapists. And even therapists, like one of the male therapists was saying it to me. He was like, we need more male therapists for men because
under the age of 30, it's 1 out of every 20 therapists is male. This very, very, like, therapy is almost completely dominated by women. Now, here's the thing. Therapy, I think, is good for women, and it is dominated by women, and it can be good for men. Like, for instance, Stephen, if you told me right now you had a therapist for me, and this guy completely, or woman, completely and totally understood my burden of performance, meaning if I felt upset or angry or whatever, that comes second to getting the fucking job done. As long as I had a therapist who grasped that concept, I think I'd be good. You understand what I'm saying? What I can't have is someone telling me to relax or telling me in those type of situations, because at some point no matter what, the problem has to get solved, no matter how I fucking feel about it. And so that's the issue that I found. And I'll just be honest with you, like, and again, this is not all women. There's absolutely some women out there who are cardiologists, and there's women out there who have massive burden of performance. The majority of women I meet do not have the same burden of performance that a guy who's running a construction crew does, or a guy who's running a military campaign. It's just very different. And so for us, we don't have the luxury of caring about our feelings to the extent our mental health is still important. Men commit suicide at a far greater rate than women do, and it's because we don't take care of our mental health. I fully agree to that. But the problem is the solution isn't to use then female therapy techniques on men. That's not the solution. The solution is to have a different type of therapy for masculine men. And I hate it. By the way, when I say masculine, they could be gay masculine men or straight masculine men. It's just there's a way that masculine men need to be approached, and therapy and therapy need to be used on them in a different way than it is for a woman, or else it just doesn't work. Telling me to go into my feelings and then like, you know, like I don't have time to do that. I have to perform. We need to start with performance. If you ever watch this Bobby Axelrod, what is it? Billions? You remember the show Billions?
Yeah, I remember Billions.
The lady psychologist who she was a PhD who was in the place. I forgot her name. Rhodes. I forgot what Wendy Rhodes. Wendy Rhodes' character is a performance coach. She's not a therapist. She's a performance coach. I'm also not a therapist. I'm a performance coach. No, I'm not a licensed. I'm not a licensed therapist. But I am a performance coach, meaning what'll happen is, and this is where it comes a very big difference between men and women. A lot of times for men, if we go out as a group and we accomplish a goal together, you'll be amazed at how many, the depression just gone. Wait, what happened to the depression is gone. Oh, I felt loneliness. Well, let's go out and let's figure out a way to become attractive to the opposite sex. Let's get ourselves in better physical shape. And then let's go ahead and get a super awesome friend group. All of a sudden, loneliness, Stephen, gone, just gone like that. There's just these therapeutic solutions for men that don't necessarily exist with women. And I'll give you another big one, and that is testosterone. Testosterone is not something that's prescribed by a psychiatrist, but there's a lot of psychiatrists out there that have prescribed Zoloft to people who really, if they had just got their levels checked, they'd actually be much happier. And there's also a reason why men suffer from depression less is because we have higher testosterone than females do. So that's where that comes from. And again, if you live a sedentary existence, like for instance, you're exceptionally wealthy, you live with your parents, and you have no intention whatsoever of going out, getting a job, or starting a business, then I think the same type of therapy, non-performance based therapy that females experience, I think that might work for you. But if you're in a situation where, like, I have 60 employees that work for me, we have to make payroll every month, and I have to go out there and grind every day so that we make enough money to pay our employees, then I don't have the luxury of sitting there focusing on my feelings. Or even if I do, the job still has to get done no matter how I feel about it.
All right, I'm gonna give you an example of something that happened to me. I remember, I grew up around feminists. Two of my sisters are staunch feminists, right? Yeah, so I grew up around feminists. So my sister gave, I don't know if you've ever read Bell Hooks. My sister gifted me Bell Hooks' book, Feminism is for Everybody. And so I always grew up with them. And my dad is sick. He had like 4 strokes. And so when he had like the second stroke, and we were going to the hospital like to see him, my sister like pulled me aside. My sister is a staunch feminist lesbian, and she was like, listen, I need you to man up. You can't show any emotions. You can't be sad. I need you to man up and deal with Dad when we go into the hospital. And I felt like that shit stuck with me. I never said it to her, because I was like, I've always been raised feminist. I've always been raised to be in touch with my emotions. But in the time of like high pressure and in like very like serious traumatic experiences, I still had the expectation of manning up and of being in control of my emotions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Isn't it funny how that works?
Yeah, so like, and I don't think she even realized it when she said it to me. You know what I mean? But it stuck with me in terms of, okay, as a man, even with my emotions and even with the trauma, I still have to be a man in life, in heavy situations.
Imagine an existence with no internet, no infrastructure, no electricity, no running water, nothing. And you live in an agrarian society out in a village somewhere. And every day is a survival scenario. That whole situation where like, I need you to man up, that's every day for our ancestors. Every day was like that. And because of that, no matter how offensive this becomes to people. Gender roles were defined 50,000 years ago, not because of a patriarchy by men, but because that was necessary. Men were bigger and stronger, and therefore the bigger and stronger gender needed to go hunt and protect. And that's the way things worked back then. They don't have to be that way now. And so because of that, because we get further and further away from a survival scenario, like you were mentioning before, Stephen, then you can have an entire life as a man where you don't have to man up. You can be super in touch with your emotions. You can wear a pink dress and start dating Megan Fox. All kinds of, you can paint your hair all kinds of funny fucking colors. You can go snitch to the feds, and all of a sudden women are still attracted to you. This is a very different world. You could be addicted to heroin and fucking get tattoos all over your face and, Post Malone. Now your women find you incredibly attractive. Like the whole concept of manning up isn't just because it's not necessary. There are other ways of survival now. That's the reason why, there's a lot of confusion when it comes to that. But for those men who are famous and want to live that lifestyle, that's one thing. But for the rest of us, that we have to perform. Normal men have to perform in order to survive.
Yeah. Have you ever, as a performance coach, have you ever had a situation with a client where the things that worked for you, the books that you read that pulled you up and helped you to man up, did not register for your students? Or did you ever have a situation like that?
Yeah, there are several, but the main one is A New Earth and the Power of Now, and another book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. Yeah. The Power of Now is by Eckhart Tolle. Yeah. If someone hasn't suffered enough, those books mean nothing to them. Just imagine like an NBA or an NFL team that just barely makes the playoffs every year. So they don't pick high enough in the draft to get better players, but they're not low enough in the draft to where they're going to tank. They haven't suffered enough, right? It's the same thing. Like for me, when I hit rock bottom, which is my father being killed by a drunk driver, my girlfriend breaking up with me being sent to the Middle East. There was a lot of things that went wrong in 2006 for me. Yeah. Watching the Dallas Mavericks lose to the Miami Heat in the finals. Like there was a lot of things that were traumatic that year. When that happens, for me, I had suffered enough. My body just sort of gave out. There's this thing called, your body continues to produce cortisol. If you've gone through like severe depression, there's this thing where your body cannot produce any more cortisol. And you just have this like moment of reprieve where you just feel fantastic for a little while. My body had gotten to that point, adrenaline fatigue. Like I just couldn't produce any more cortisol. And then from that point, once I finally read The Power of Now, I had suffered enough to where just the concept of like me being in the present moment and not suffering and like the realization that I am going to die and that I'm not that special. When I came to that, it was just such a magnificent relief. I still remember to this day. I'm driving southbound on I can't remember, it's I-85 from Atlanta to Warner Robins, Georgia. And I just pulled over to the side of the road because it was just such an incredible relief for me, this realization that I'm enough, like this realization that like I'm going to die and when I do, it's not that big of a deal. Like it's not going to matter that many people. And it was so liberating to just not worry about what other people thought. Now, so what I just said to a lot of people who are like very, like they've suffered, but not too much. They've grown up in kind of a middle-class existence, had their heart broken a couple times or whatever. To those people, everything I said is going to sound like hogwash mumbo jumbo. But when you've actually hit rock bottom, and my rock bottom is not like heroin living on the street rock bottom. Like, there's certain people who've gone way further than me. But when you've gotten to your bottom where you've suffered enough, then at that point, then all of a sudden these books about enlightenment, present moment awareness, and gratitude, they start making a ton of fucking sense to you. Yeah. But if you haven't suffered enough, you're just not going to experience it. And I have some friends of mine. Yeah, I have some friends of mine that are probably worth maybe $50, $100 million. And so what happens is with money can always placate their suffering to the point where they never suffer enough. I have a couple friends of mine, like they have, private jets or whatever. And it's like, their heart is broken by a girl, but because there's always 10 more girls, or they have a bad business deal, but they're so wealthy that it's like they can always cover up the pain, so they never suffer enough, so they never get to a point where they look for enlightenment.
Yeah, it's funny because like trauma always wakes you up. Because I think there was a point I got in a fight with my dad. I got kicked out of the house, and I had to figure it out. I had to figure it out. And then like the second time was when my dad got sick. And then I was in the hospital with him, and I'm like, shit, no one is gonna save me. Like I just the hospital bills were coming in, and I was like, no one's coming to save me. I have to figure this shit out. And I feel like when you have a moment like that, it's like, okay, I have to fucking figure this out. No one's coming to save me. No one's coming to save this family. I have to figure it out. And I think when you have that moment, yeah, everything is, you value everything so much more, and you just realize how unimportant a lot of things are. Like how people's perception of you, what people think of you, you just start to be like, okay, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I made some poor financial investments earlier this decade, and when I watched the market crash and my portfolio crash, and realizing my father, who was a financial guru, he wasn't there to save me, and I had to fix all these problems myself. That was another realization for me. Like the level of pressure that I was under, losing that much. Like just imagine, guys, losing 50% of your net worth in a day. Like it was like that kind of feeling, right? And then, by the way, that sucks when you're worth 50 grand. If you're worth several million and you lose 50, I'm not saying how much I was worth, but if you lose several million in a day, you're going to be like, this is like, it's one of these things where I didn't want to end my own life, but I totally understood why some guys back in New York were doing it. Like I understood the impulse was just so incredibly strong, and you would do anything to get rid of that impulse and that panic. So that's why that happened. But then what I do is just sit down, I have gratitude, talk to my family, and they were like, we love you. It doesn't matter. Like, it's fine. Whatever happened. And, I start a scalable business that works out, make all the money back. And I look back on it and I'm grateful for the whole situation to happen. But it's one of these things where now I look back because I had gratitude in the situation, and now I know I can get through anything. Going through growing up, going to Woodrow Wilson High School in East Dallas, with all the fucking crime that was there, going through U.S. military survival school, and then surviving like these several economic calamities, including the one in '08 and the one in 2010 and the one in 2020 and the one in when the invasion of Ukraine, I guess 2021, all of those economic calamities that had happened. When you survive through those, you just realize you can get through anything. You know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like, and the other thing you're going to find is that like as you get older, the memento mori, you remember you're mortal, and then the other one is this too shall pass, right? These sayings that people have.
This too shall pass. I love that one.
This too shall pass. It's just really important. Coming to the realization, and then the other one I love is Good by what's his name? Jocko Willink. He's like, you just won $10 million. Good. Hey man, just want to let you know, like half your staff just quit last night. Good. Like no matter what it is, the answer is good. It's like either the thing that happened is good or the challenge that's on the way is also good. It's such a healthy way of like living your life. To me, that's better than therapy. A friend of mine was asking me, am I happy? Because he was looking at all the things I was doing. And he asked a legitimate question. He's like, hey man, are you happy? And I was like, man, I've never been happier. I just can't imagine, like, I get to accomplish goals with other men that I respect. That's the apex of human existence. That and having a family, I think, is the apex of human existence. So like, why not build a life where you can do that all the time? So that's the reason. I mean, back to your original point, it's like, I don't have an issue with therapy. If you could find a performance coach for me who was a therapist, I would go to him in 2 seconds, but he has to understand that bills must get paid no matter how I fucking feel about it. As long as he understands that, then I'm down for whatever.
Okay. In terms of with performance coaching with your clients, have you ever had, how much has finances affected the emotional well-being of like the clients you've had?
It just to some extent a lot. And that's one of the things we focus on. It's like, so just think of like health, wealth, and relationships as like different sliders, different attributes, whichever the one that they're having the worst problem with. Like I have one client, he's doing well. He's got a CDL, pretty good license. He's a pretty good job driving trucks. And his wealth is good. His relationships aren't, but he's overweight. And so health becomes one. If all three are even, health comes first. If all three are even, health comes first. Okay. Yeah. But then I have what the majority of my clients are in this situation where they're in pretty decent shape. Maybe they've gone through a breakup, or they've just been working, really hard for a decade, and now they have some money saved up. So wealth is good. And health is good. So we spend our time working on relationships. We spend our time working on networking and becoming the most attractive versions of ourselves so that we can attract the opposite sex. That becomes the priority then for those men, because their attribute on relationships is lower than health and wealth. But health has to come first, and just health. And it was like, I'd always known that, but it was actually Justin Waller who kind of just like made me clearly see that was the case. Like health is just, because one of the things people don't understand, and again, I've seen therapists that don't grasp this. You're talking to someone across from you on a couch who's morbidly overweight, and they're sitting there talking to you about depression. And the only thing you need to tell them is to lose weight. Like that has to be the priority. And when people don't grasp that, there's a great book by Dr. Daniel Perlmutter Perlmutter called Grain Brain, and it goes over plaque that's developed in the brain from eating too much gluten. People, when you get fat, I don't know if you've seen this before, Stephen, seen someone put on 100 pounds of fat and they turn crazy. There is no way to put on 50 pounds of fat and not have it affect your neurology. It absolutely does. And so when I hear, if you have a therapist and the therapist is looking at somebody who's over 14% body fat, let's say over 16% body fat, and that isn't the first thing your therapist is saying, because that's the difference between a therapist and a performance coach. The first thing I'm going to tell you is you've got to get the weight down. You've got to lower the body fat percentage, because it's not just your body, it's your brain that functions different when you do that. And so that's why, again, if you find a coach for me who's going to tell me that, then I'm all about it. If you find a coach for me, sorry, they numbed my face in my dentist's office. So I'm catching feeling here. My right side of my face.
I picked it up. Man.
It's completely numb. But if they're able to do that, then that's totally fine. But they have to understand I have to perform.
Mike, what is the level of accessibility for the average person for a performance coach? How accessible?
What do you mean accessibility?
In terms of affordability, like, okay, so because I
don't know. That's a good question. I know for me, ours is a high ticket offer. Like, you have to pay for 6 months, to do the thing with me. That's a good question. I don't know what it is in general. But the thing is, because I'm a performance coach, but I also this is the reason, again, I'm not a licensed therapist. A licensed therapist is going to say, what are your feelings? They're going to repeat your feelings back to you. And then they're going to use their medical information, like the technology that they've learned, the strategy they've learned to help fix you. In my situation, I'm actually going to give you strategies for life to help build your business, to get in better shape, and to be able to network with people and meet more attractive women, to become a better leader and a better speaker. And in doing so, increase your performance. And from that, I am actually going to give you suggestions. Whereas a lot of times with therapists, they're not going to judge your life. They're going to get you away from. I am going to judge you to a certain extent and try to get you. Yeah. So that's why. So it's hard for me. If we're talking about like a licensed performance coach, I don't know what the answer to that is. I know what I do. What I do is I found an evidence-based way of getting results for men, and then I teach it, and I have a pretty structured course. That's got 11 different pillars in it where I teach all the things that I've learned over the last 25 years.
And it has led to a level of success in most of the people, because that's a very long-term investment. So I feel like 6 months, someone who joins that is someone that's very much dedicated and like.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. If you get a graduate degree, it's going to be 2 or 3 years. If you go to a therapist, most people are going to do that for several years. It's not that long of one, but I mean, the thing is, how much is it worth to you? If you really want to change, if your wife left you because you were fat and said you had no ambition, you can go to a therapist, and a therapist can help you deal with the depression and sadness. And then you can come to me, and we're going to get you in fucking shape. And then we're going to do something with your career where you're motivated to solve other people's problems, maybe scale your career, find ways to replace different functions in your business so that you can spend more time doing what you love, coming with all these fucking amazing strategies. So your ex-wife is looking at you like, why the fuck did I leave that guy? That guy's a champ. I fucked up. That's the guy I should have been with. That's what I do as a performance coach as opposed to a therapist.
Isn't it funny how a lot of men always have this thing of trying to win their ex back or proving their ex wrong?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. By the way, let's talk about this, Stephen. Men are addicted. This is another thing why therapy for men and women has to be different. Men are addicted to sexual validation, and women are addicted to attention. Women get their validation through attention. Men get their validation through sex. It's a massive generalization. To be more specific, men get their validation through compliance leading to sex, and women get their validation from attention leading to resources. So that in general, I'm just massive generalization here, but that's generally the way it is. But here's the difference, right? Me as a man, because I want to be attracted to the opposite sex, okay? I get a haircut, I go to the gym, I dress clothes that fit me. My place is spick and span, incredibly clean. I live right next to the strip. Like, I have a lot of nice things and become a better speaker and just better person, more well-rounded human being because I was trying to impress the opposite sex for the last 40 years. Okay?
Yeah.
And so I think it made me a better person. Now, I don't know that a woman's addiction to attention does the same thing. I just don't see it does. What I see there is, fake photos, posting thirst traps. That it feels like their necessity for validation does not make them better people. Whereas my necessity for validation makes me want to run into a burning building to save people, because that's what my job is as a masculine man. That's just my opinion. Like, I'm not saying obviously women are awesome, men are awesome. I'm not saying women are worse. I'm just saying my validation for sexual selection actually makes me a better person. In general, not always. Obviously, some men lied in order to fuck women, so that would be an example where it would make you a worse person. But in general, when I see women, like, their necessity for attention does not make them better people. Whenever I post something on my Instagram, and there's some guys out there that like genuinely disagree with me, and I totally understand why they disagree. But there's some guys, and I'd say most of the guys who disagree with me on there are doing so because they're trying to impress women. They're trying to like be this white knight, save a hoe dude who, like, I'm gonna stick it to Michael Sartain and show these women that I'm better than him by standing up for their honor. And you just want to grab these dudes and be like, dude, they're not gonna fuck you. No matter how many nice comments you put on my wall, they're not going to fuck you. These women aren't gonna fuck you. You want to tell them that, but they don't want to listen. So yeah, I think that the only reason men can get away with that, they're like snitches and they're sniveling and they're fucking passive aggressive and talk about other dudes behind their back, is because we don't live in an ancestral society. If we lived in small tribes and you're talking shit about me behind my back, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you. That's the way it would work. But we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I don't do that.
We don't do that. We don't do that anymore.
They do that here. They do that in Jamaica, not in the States.
Yeah, the thing is, like, do you remember the video of Mike Tyson turning around and punching that guy on the airplane? That was an example of a human. I would bet you any amount of money that the guy who Mike Tyson was punching, he leaves comments on YouTube and Reddit and TikTok talking shit about people. I would bet you any amount of money he does. And when he was talking to Mike Tyson, in his mind, he's still protected. He's like, I talk shit to people all the time and no one does anything to me. Right. And then he did it but he just did it to the wrong motherfucker. By the way, if I'm a jury and I'm looking at this after the fact, I'm like looking at the dude, and I don't care how bad Mike Tyson beat this guy up. I'm like, you said that to Mike Tyson. You kind of deserve it. You know what I'm saying? Like, at some point, like, logic and reason have to step in. Is violence correct in that instance? No. But you did talk shit to Mike Tyson.
I mean,
so you kind of
like the person more willing to get into a fight is least likely to get into the fight. From what I've seen out here, especially, like, we don't have that. We don't have stuff like that. There've been a lot of bloggers. You have bloggers that, do gossip blogs. Out here, a lot of them have been killed. Like,
that's terrible. That's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, it's not okay. So it's not. But my point is, like, there's certain people you can't talk shit about. Like, especially I live in
the cartel in northern Mexico would be a bad. Like, being in Tijuana and writing a blog about the cartel would be a bad move. No, I agree with you. That's definitely the case.
So, like, out here, there's kind of you don't have that, like, space of talking shit and not I live on an island, so I see it too many times. I'm like, there's people that think they're in the States because you have that freedom in America to talk shit.
Yeah.
I've seen too many people get beat up out here because of that. So
it's crazy. But that's what happened to that guy. So just so we're clear, men are also, because of a lack of accountability, generally from the anonymity that they've been giving due to social media, that's why men have become unaccountable as well. And pornography and other things like that. But for women, their lack of accountability generally like, again, my girlfriend's very smart. She says things that are correct, but men agree with her when she says these things, but they're not agreeing with her because she's correct. They're agreeing with her because she was a bartender and she's the hot bartender and they're going to agree with her. That's why. Man. And she that's essentially what happens. Even though she is correct, that's not why they're agreeing.
Okay. So, all right. So, but I've had situations with female friends where they come to me for advice and I tell them the truth and they actually absolutely hate me for the advice. I have a friend who was she's a model.
Usually, Stephen, usually they don't hate me for the advice. Usually they appreciate the advice. They tell me I'm wrong. They get a little bit defensive and then they don't take the advice. And then when they're wrong and I turn out to be right, they tend to like stop talking to me. I've seen that happen. I don't know if you've ever had, like, where you tell a girl exactly what's going to happen and it happens and like she can't even face you afterwards. I've had that happen several times. Hey, to let you know, honey, your boyfriend is going to cheat on you again. And they just don't hear it,
Yeah, I got blocked for that. And another friend, she didn't talk to me for months. But then she came back and just like, you were right.
It sucks. Yeah, like going your whole life not being accountable and then somebody holds you accountable. What must that feel like? And especially, Stephen, if you're a guy who's actually her friend and you're not trying to sleep with her and she's not your boss, that means when you hold her accountable, she can't punish you back. Like you're not sleeping with her. She can't like withhold sex or attention from you. It doesn't matter. You guys are just friends. And so when someone who's like that, who's like completely unaccountable to her, sits there and gives her accountable lessons, then it's very difficult. Just imagine, Stephen, like how you would be if you got 6,000 messages from women every month telling you how fucking hot you were and how they wanted to fly you out to different places just to treat you like so good and you didn't even have to fuck them. Just imagine if you got 6,000. Imagine if you could swipe like left on dating apps thousands of times, and every time you swipe right, you got a match, and every time a girl wanted to go out with you. Imagine what kind of a horrible person you would turn into. Like imagine like how intractable, how completely intolerable you would become if you got that much attention from the opposite sex. Of course. I mean, so what's happened in society is obvious. Of course, this was going to happen. That's what social media did. It took out the middleman. The men can give infinite sexual attraction to women, and women will receive infinite levels of sexual attraction. What's happened now is because of the high-speed internet is that infinite levels of sexual attraction, the transference of one from men to women, that infinite level of it has made it so that women, like the actual infinite levels of attraction are actually being received by women. And so that's where we are right now. And of course, like it jades reality because in a long-term dating market, like when we talk about long-term commitment, women are getting the impression that they can get hundreds of men to commit to them when they can't even get one to commit to them, but they can get hundreds of men to have sex with them. They just haven't figured out the difference.
You said something I liked. You said that pornography does to men what social media does to women. In terms of setting up a sense, I really like that. That was a very good quote. Like, could you elaborate on that a bit more? Because you're saying
and so women will get their validation from attention, which eventually leads to resources. Attention from a man leading to a wedding ring, essentially, or for a woman who's like attention from a man leading to him being her sugar daddy, whatever. Just attention leading to resources, and then men will get their validation, compliance from women, right? Women holding their hand, showing up on time, all this kind of stuff, to the point where a woman is like taking the kids to school, making dinner, whatever, and then eventually to sex, because sex leads to replication. Men get a massive amount of validation from sex. I don't think women grasp this part. Because women know that men are horny and will fuck anything. I just don't think women understand the validation that men get from sex in addition to the pleasure, the physical pleasure. They don't get it because women generally don't get the same validation from sexual intercourse that men do. Women use sexual intercourse as sort of a pair bonding thing, a release of oxytocin. So the man and the woman are now bonded together. So she knows she's keeping this man so that they can raise a child together. For men, there's definitely some of that, but there's this sense of validation that I don't believe women experience. And so because of that, that's why it's very different. So for men, because of the validation, and the validation can be totally non-contextual, and my proof is pornography. When women try to argue with me about like men not needing comfort in order to have sex, it's like, how would pornography exist if what you're saying is true? Like the existence of pornography totally disproves everything that you're saying. Total non-contextual images of nude women that men are looking at and paying billions of dollars for. And you're telling me that men need comfort or context to have sex? It's absurd. It's absurd. The porn industry grows magnitude. Huh?
Well, you said they need comfort to have sex?
So men don't need comfort or context in order to have sex with women or to find women attractive. Women need both. Women need comfort and they need context. Now, some women need very little comfort. Like the comfort they need is some mushrooms and Molly, and then that's enough comfort for them to have sex. But for most women have a seduction process. Men don't need a seduction process.
Yeah.
Anyway,
no, so I agree. I was just I've never heard that logic of men needing comfort. That's a wild.
Yeah, men don't need comfort. But if you go listen to my 2 interviews with Brandy Andrews, she's just like confused. She's like, no, men enjoy sex so much better when it's with their long lost soulmate. And I'm like, nah, that both is like, and every guy who listens to it agrees with me because like, it can be good, but it doesn't have to be good. And like my relationship with my girlfriend is incredible and the sex we have is incredible, but they both happen to be incredible. I know some people who are in incredible relationships who don't have good sex. And I know some people who have men who have good sex with a woman and who have no desire to have a relationship with them. For men, the two can be totally separate from each other. For women, they can too, but generally they aren't. Yeah. Generally they aren't. So that's a massive difference. So now, if that's the case, then going back to what you were saying before, men will receive their validation from limitless, non-contextual images of female nudity, and women will receive their validation from limitless amounts of attention, likes, comments, sliding in the DMs, direct messages from men.
Can I ask you, how has pornography affected a performance for men in terms of like what is it that
you'll have erectile dysfunction in men under the age of 21.
Yeah,
that's a big deal. Yeah, it is. It definitely is. And I'll tell you, like, from my standpoint, like, there was definitely a point where it was a problem for me when I was in the military and I was stuck overseas for a long time. It was a problem, and I came back and it was a problem. And the further I got away from it, the more that problem went away. It's a very reversible thing, but it's very hard to do. I'll tell you what's really hard to get over, Stephen. It takes some years and a lot of effort. I've had clients who were addicted to prostitutes, and that is a tough one. That is a really tough one, because when they're addicted to prostitutes, it's not just the paying money for sex. I'm not making a moral judgment here, but the issue is when they pay women for sex, those women they can pay for, now the men can become more selective. We're usually in a normal sexual environment, women are the selective ones. When men are paying for sex, men can actually be more selective and pay more money for more attractive women. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so when they're doing that, what happens is when they get back into a normal environment and a normal looking woman rejects them, which is probably what's going to happen because these guys don't have any game because they're paying women for sex. When that happens, they immediately scurry back to the prostitution, scurry back to their hookers, like, very quickly. And they start convincing themselves. I've had this happen on numerous occasions where guys who are paying women for sex were trying to convince me that they were good with women because they bargained for, I don't know. It was crazy, Steve. So I think the addiction to prostitution is hard to get over.
And it's tied into pornography as well, because I remember I had a friend, he told me his story. He wasn't addicted, but his father got him into watching porn. Yeah. And then later on, it sounds kind of fucked up saying it like that, but that was the story. But then later on, he would just do that. He would just be like, yo, why am I going through the drama of a girlfriend? Yeah. And just like pay for sex. You know,
get ready, because that's where we're headed. And it won't be pay for sex with women either. It's going to be pay for sex with a robot.
Oh, yeah. I don't know about that one, bro. That's kind of wild.
I mean, you and I would never do that, but I'm telling you, future generations will absolutely do that. Bro, can you imagine telling a woman in the 1940s that in 1974, a woman is going to stick silicone gel bubbles into her boobs? Could you imagine telling a woman in the 1940s that was going to happen? They would look at you like you're fucking crazy.
That's
so we're sitting there talking about fake boobs, which are very normal now, but the concept of them in the 1920s would have been absurd. So now I'm expressing to you that men are probably going to be fucking robots in 50 years, and it sounds crazy, but it won't sound crazy in 50 years. I'm telling you it won't. I'm never going to fuck a robot, but I have a feeling my great-grandchildren will.
I hope not. I hope my kids don't do that. I'll be like, son.
Yeah. 100 years from now, I see it as inevitable.
And there's a thing of inevitability. Like, a lot of things are just gonna happen, and we just have to accept it. You know what I mean? I wanted to ask you about, like, okay, so do you encourage
raise those kids not to fuck robots? Just raise your kids. And
is that what we're gonna do, babe? Hold on.
Kids and your grandkids to not fuck robots.
Wait, so we're not gonna do that?
No.
Does that seem like a lot simpler? Hold on, keep saying more. Keep saying more. Explain more. Kylie, they want to hear more.
I don't know, man.
Kylie, this is a therapy program.
You guys to be good civilian human beings and to not use their sons to go fuck robots.
Okay. You got that? Stephen, are you writing this down? Stephen?
It's recording. It's recorded.
Okay, good.
I feel like maybe it's a third world thing to build a lifestyle in terms of building like a network. That sounds a lot more difficult. So how is you normally convince your clients that, okay, this is the way to go? Because it sounds a lot more work and a lot more difficult.
You know how we, by the way, it wasn't aliens, but we don't know exactly how the Egyptians build the pyramids, right? 1,000 years ago. What's happened is building a network is a lost technology, just like that's a lost technology. And so I've just uncovered the lost technology. We start from places like How to Win Friends and Influence People. A lot of it in that book, everything in that book is applicable today. Every single thing in that book is still applicable. The concept from Think and Grow Rich of like education for education's sake. And like, I want you to consider this. I built a social circle of interviewing people. Like, a lot of my friends have come from people that I've interviewed on my podcast, interviewing people to get the knowledge out them. That's what that's what Napoleon Hill did when he wrote Think and Grow Rich. Now, some people say it's apocryphal. Some people say like a lot of that stuff's made up. I don't care if it is apocryphal. The story is still motivating to me.
Yeah. Like
Basically,
right?
yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad is another one. I got to interview Dale Carnegie. I got to interview Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. So I totally agree with you when it comes to that. But what was the original point?
The question I asked was, how would you like motivate? Like, how do you sell it? Like, because it sounds like
building a network. Yeah,
building a network. Sounds like more work.
Yeah, so you give super logical people really very concise step-by-step instructions on building a social circle. That's what you do. That's how you sell it. I'll just consider this, right? There's a reason why the fucking guitarist for the mid-tier band has like a 500 body count. There's a reason why the drummer and the guitarist just slay vagina and the physicist doesn't. And the reason why, and the physicist probably makes more money on average than the guitarist. Yeah. The reason why is because the physicist, he manipulates the world around him using logic and reason, and the guitarist does it through art and emotion. And the art and emotion is a better way to communicate with women as far as attraction is concerned.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important. The reason why I bring that up is because what happens is it's not that men are having, it's like, what is it that's causing men to have trouble? It's not something that needs to be added. It's something that needs to be subtracted. Your hyper logical reasoning is the problem generally. Whenever I have guys join the program, I'm like, you're being too logical here. And that's the reason why women don't find you attractive. It's like, I try to explain to them, they'll write an invite to try to get a bunch of girls to come to a party. And the invite will have like all this context behind it, 5 paragraphs, no photos. It evokes no emotion other than TLDR, too long, didn't read. And they don't understand. It's like, this is the way I write other experimental and theoretical physicists in my department, in my astronomy department. Why is it that women can't speak to me like this? And then I'll write a message and I'll be like, yo, party at this place, emoji. These are the photographers coming, emoji. Do you want to come? Question mark. And then there's like 5 photos of girls like, yeah, having a fucking great time. Girls just like partying and like, big fucking smiles on their face. And then the guys are like, I don't understand why does your invite work and mine doesn't? It's because your invite is based in logic and reason and my invite is based in emotion.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, even if someone is surrounded by girls, right? And this has happened to me where they still need a foundation of like how to talk to that person, how to make them attractive.
So because I feel like it's easy to kind of be like, you can post all these pictures of yourself with women, but then when like, the girl that's interested comes over, you're like a spluttering, you're bumbling because you're not sure how to do it.
So
well, you're less likely to be bumbling if you're surrounded. Like if you took a normal dude and just surrounded him with women all the time, he's just not going to be bumbling around women anymore. He's going to be more likely to be a more comfortable version of himself. First off, that's number one. And number two, like when a girl has the perception that the guy is attractive to other women, he's already like several steps ahead of the game. Meaning like I'll just tell you in general, interactions are better when a woman is already attracted to you when the interaction starts than when they don't.
Oh my God.
They're just better. And so being able to trigger attraction through pre-selection, mate choice copying, sexy sons hypothesis, whatever you want to call it, being able to trigger attraction that way, you're already at an advantage and there's just less bullshit you have to deal with.
You remember Eben Pagan? So I don't mean to cut you. No, he just said, I remember he said something back in the day. He was like, if a girl likes you, there's nothing that she can do about it. In terms of attraction, and he's like, if a girl doesn't like you, there's nothing that you can do about it.
Yeah. Now that's not quite. I think within the interaction, he's correct. Outside the interaction, there's a ton you can do about it. But guys, put on 40 pounds of fucking solid lean muscle. You did something about it. I guarantee you, any of you listening to me right now, who you put on 20 or 40 pounds of solid lean muscle, there is going to be a large proportion of women that you used to like that are going to be coming after you, bro. So I guarantee you.
You believe that the gym body thing makes a difference? Because I've seen these debates of women saying they prefer the dad bod, like a gym body.
Yeah. So what they're saying with the dad bod thing is like whenever it's the dad bod thing, it's always a famous guy with the dad bod. That's the first thing. And number two, they're saying it because this is just something you'll notice very often. This is not all women, but most women are like this. When you ask them what they like, they're going to express what makes them feel comfortable. Remember, women have two dynamics of like wanting to be with men. I was going to say attraction, but attraction is one of the two dynamics. They have attraction and they have comfort. Men just have attraction. This is where the confusion comes. When you ask a man what makes him attracted to a woman, he's going to say it's because, she's submissive, feminine, nice body, pretty face. We're going to say things that we're attracted to. And if you watch our behavior, it turns out that's what we're actually attracted to. When you're a guy being like, man, I'm obsessed with Asian women. If you go through his fucking YouTube searches, you're going to find that he watches porn with Asian women. Like men generally, it's like a 1-to-1 correlation. What we're attracted to is what we describe we're attracted to because it's very simple because we don't need comfort. When you ask women what they're attracted to, they describe what makes them comfortable. And that's what the confusion comes in. I want a guy who's nice and I like a dad bod. No, you want Channing Tatum to be nice and have a dad bod. You want, what I'm saying? You want Jared Leto to be nice and have a dad bod. You don't want a normal guy to be nice and have a dad bod. It's like, I like it when guys dress flamboyant and crazy like Prince or Machine Gun Kelly. I'm like, no, you want Prince or Machine Gun Kelly to dress nice and flamboyant. You don't want the average guy to. I like when guys just come up and talk to me and they're all masculine. No, you like it when guys who look like Tom Brady or Cristiano Ronaldo come up to you and act brazen and assertive. You don't like it when regular guys do, because women, once again, when you ask men what they're attracted to, they describe what they're attracted to. When you ask women what they're attracted to, they describe what makes them feel comfortable. Because the concept of women being attracted to a man they don't find attractive is outside of their reality, so they don't even consider it. So whenever you ask the question, it's always assumed, well, I'm already attracted to him, therefore I want flowers from him. No, you want flowers from a guy you're attracted to. You don't want flowers from a random guy.
Okay, so, man, funny.
That's why the dad bod thing is a myth. Dad bod is a myth.
Okay.
It's a myth.
No, okay, cool. Question though, can we talk about that? How is it, I remember you mentioned something about vulnerability and how it's, like, men should not be vulnerable. So, all right, so, the funny thing is, when I've done therapy or counseling sessions with women, as a man, I see certain things where I'm being vulnerable and I'm like, yeah, I need to have a male therapist because she's not getting this. And you know what I mean? Like, no matter what, it's like a universal lack of attraction. And so what is it that causes that where vulnerability in men, like women say they like it? Because I'm going to tell you the story. At my first love, it was my best friend. We're friends for a while and then we're friends for 10 years actually. And then it became more, and we started having sex, we started dating, and then she was like, yo, I really wish you'd be more vulnerable with me. I have no problems with you being vulnerable with me. So this is this is one of the few girls I genuinely loved. So I'm like, you know what, you're right. I'm gonna be more vulnerable with you. The next week, she was fucking somebody.
Of course. Because you becoming more vulnerable, it increased the comfort level, but it decreased the attraction. And she's not even aware of that. Again, I said this before. Yeah, often when you do what a woman asks, she will punish you for it. Because what's happened in the indication? No, again. Hey, stop rolling over on me on bed, or stop farting in bed. That's not what I'm talking about. Those are legitimate things that a woman may want you to stop doing. But when a woman's like, I need you to be more vulnerable, become more vulnerable, and you're not going to have a woman here very, very long. Because when you do specifically what they say, remember, they're giving you this advice because they want to feel better, not because they're trying to make you more attractive or trying to increase the potency of the relationship. That's not why they're telling you that. And so that's one of the things that it just becomes very apparent. And something that I've learned is like when I, as a guy, I've become frustrated with my partner and be like, okay, I'll just do everything that she wants. And as soon as I do it, the relationship's over very quickly. Because here's the other thing. If she's recommending we do a thing and I do it, who's leading now?
Her, she is.
Okay, one more time, male and female therapists who may be hearing this. You know as well as I do. I know your doctrine may not allow you to teach this, but you know it to be true. Relationships work better when men lead, not when men boss women around. That is not what I'm talking about. But when you're in a situation where a man is not allowed to be masculine, and part of one of the masculine traits is that he leads in a relationship. When you do not allow a man to lead, women lose respect for him and they eventually break up. That's how we get to a 56 divorce rate. Now, I know there's going to be people coping and like, no, that's not true. And egalitarian society and feminism. The reality situation is relationships work better when two things are going on. Number one, a woman needs to be slightly more into the guy than the other way around. It's just a fact because women get more attention from men than vice versa. So so men don't have a leverage point if the man's more into the woman. And number two, a man needs to be able to lead. And I don't care if it's 51-49, but he has to be able to lead. If you don't allow him to lead, women, especially very attractive women, are going to walk all over him. This whole partnership thing where it's like 50-50, it's fine to say that shit. But in the end, when the house is on fire, honey, get the fucking kids and we have to go. There's no time to argue with me, honey. Stop the arguing. I'm a man. I'm leading. Let's go. If she's the one who's like, honey, wake the fuck up. Look, I'm going to grab the kids and save the kids and get out of here. As soon as she gets out of the fucking house after she saved the kids instead of her husband, she will divorce him. Yes, she will. Deny it all you want. Go ahead and tell me I'm wrong. But you know deep down what I'm saying is true, no matter how offensive it comes off. That is the reality that we live in.
All right. Okay, so back to the therapy thing I wanted to ask, because what happens if, all right, so, you know, as I've been saying about my dad being sick, and I've visited a lot of like nursing homes and stuff. And there's men there that used to be performers, but can no longer perform. As in they can barely even walk, some of them. And like, so it's been like a very waking up thing for me of seeing men like in past their prime, not able to perform and still having to say that this person has value. You know what I mean? So the question I have is, what if the person can no longer perform? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, you can. The performance is just a different performance. The performance is that of guidance. The performance, like it's like the elder. The elder has an ability to perform. That's why the elders are more revered individuals in like ancient tribal communities. Is because they have knowledge to pass on and wisdom. They can't lift like they could before. Eventually, the hunter retires and he becomes, a lot of times the leader of the community was a former hunter who just can't hunt anymore. He just doesn't have the physical ability to do it. He's older, we still because as Homo sapiens, because we pass down information from older generations to younger. We pass down information. The internet was invented before a lot of the kids using the internet were alive, right? Because we have the ability to speak, to write things down, and to pass down information. People who are older and have more experience in general should be respected more. Now, of course, we don't do that. A lot of times younger people are like, I know better. And that has to do with hormones and hubris and a lack of experience. But as I've gotten older, I realized it's funny. When I was younger, I didn't respect people who were older than me. As I've gotten older, I respect people who are even older than me. If I could sit down, you know how much I would pay just be able to sit down with Ray Dalio and fucking Warren Buffett and like guys who are like a lot older than me, who are out there just fucking killing it in business. Wayne Huizenga, I believe he's passed away, but like guys like that, you know how much I would love to sit down and just pick their brain about business, how much they could teach me. Of course I would do that. Jerry Jones in 2 seconds, fucking Mark Cuban. These guys are in their 60s, 70s, 80s years old. I have more, as I've gotten older, I have more respect for people who are older than me. So that's how I would say what your performance is still contribute to your expertise.
Okay. I see. Because some therapists were making the argument that the idea of it being only a performance coach dehumanizes men. That was the argument that
No. The world dehumanizes men. Go watch videos of World War I and World War II. The world, go look at sweatshops all over the world. The world dehumanizes men. Stephen, we are the disposable gender. We are the one who runs into the burning building, and we are the one who protects our country from invasion. The world dehumanizes men. The world makes men into a currency makes men expendable. The performance coach prepares you for the world. It does not dehumanize you. That is where they get that wrong. Play this clip for them. I'd be willing to talk to any of them, but it is not me who dehumanizes them. It is me who rehumanizes them and reminds them that their ultimate human apex goal is to accomplish goals with other men and women. Accomplishing goals in teams and groups, that is the apex of the human existence, along with having children, along with having a family. So the dehumanization of humans, that is done by warlords, that is done by famine, that is done by pestilence. That's done by crime. That's done by unjustly locking people up in prison for things that they didn't do or crimes that shouldn't even be crimes. That is the dehumanization of men, not the performance coach.
Okay. All right, man.
Thanks, Mike. Oh, by the way, I got so how is it for you now? So here's the thing now, in terms of you built this up for your life, and you're dating like very attractive women. How is it now in terms of overcoming jealousy? Because all of my friends I know who date like models, there's always that issue of what if the celebrity DMs or what if the athlete DMs or if you take her to a basketball game.
You know what I mean?
Have you seen that video? You saw that video where the guy was like, "Say, I send the ball boy to go pick the girl up. I got your girl's number. If you go to the bathroom and your girl's fine in the 100 section, I'm gonna send the ball boy to get your fucking number, and I'm in your girl's DMs."
Yes.
So the thing for me is, I'm in a relationship now, and I'm happy. But I also enjoyed dating when I was single, and I'm one of the very few men at 46 years old. I love nightclubs. I still love them. I speak nightclub. If you go to a nightclub with me, I just solve the nightclub. To me is like a puzzle to solve, and I solve the puzzle. And at the end of the puzzle, I'm standing on stage with the DJ. I just know how to solve the puzzle, and I don't spend money in nightclubs. There's just for me, I enjoy the going out and getting. It's like the hunter likes to eat the food, but he also likes the hunt. Because I enjoy the hunt so much, and because I'm so good at it, if things didn't work out between my girlfriend and I know how to replicate this experience and find someone else, and it would be fun. It would be very disappointing for me and my relationship to end because I love my girlfriend. But if it didn't work out, I also know how. Same thing. If MOA didn't work out, I know how to build a sales funnel. I know, like I've learned so many skills from helping to manage the sales team, helping to build a sales funnel, and helping to determine strategy for the business, that I know that I could start another business. Does that make sense? So the answer is rule number 3 in MOA. The answer is always abundance. The answer is always abundance. So if you have a great deal of abundance, and like if you're dating a 10, this is something Mac and Murphy talked about this, and he's a really smart sex researcher who he specializes in the art of cheating. He talks about cheating. I disagree with some of the things he says, but this one, he's absolutely right on this. He talks about when men go after women that are way out of their league, they're far more likely to get cheated on. This is absolutely true. It definitely is true.
Really?
But for men, yes. But for men in their league, like in order to get in their league, you can do things to get in her league. You can do things to improve to get in her league, right? Yeah. Go look at before and after photos of like, what's his face? David De Las Morenas, How to Beast. Dude, I saw a before picture of How to Beast and like how he looks now. It's so crazy. Adolfo Tex, the dude put on 45 pounds of muscle, or no more than that. He put on 50 pounds of muscle. He went from 130 to 135 to 185, just all muscle. What's happened is if he was dating a 10, he's becoming a 10. He's determined. He's not even 6 feet tall. Like neither of those guys are. And they're just killing. They're beautiful girlfriends. Like they're killing it. Why is that? Because they can change how the world perceives them. Or especially how females perceive them. That's something that they have the ability to do. And the number one way to do that is through body fat. The number 2 way to do that is through a proper grooming and hygiene. And the number 3 way to do that is through your physical style. Do you wear shirts that fit you correctly, right? Do you wear shirts that give you a V taper? And can you wear a suit that makes you look nice? Like, things like that. There are ways of looks maxing that absolutely, skin routine, hair routine. I interviewed Alex Costa, and he's got me now. I'm washing my face with a super fucking bougie ass cleanser twice a day. I would have never been doing this shit before. Dude, I don't know if you can tell. There's beard oil in my beard. What the fuck is beard oil? Like, I didn't even know what this shit was.
No, beard oil is that's very much important for black men.
I'm friends with Bulzarian, and I was telling Dan, I was like, Dan, you need to sell beard oil. If you sold beard oil, I would probably, maybe Ignite sells beard oil, and I'm not aware, but like he could make a killing off that shit. This shit is itchy as hell. But like you just learn these, you just learn these little tricks for like looks maxing. There's these things that you can do. Now, there's another study, Stephen, that shows that if you date less attractive women, they're also more likely to cheat on you. It's a little different. So like if you're an attractive man and you date a woman who's like significantly less attractive, for some reason, those women are more likely to cheat. But if you're a less attractive man, so basically wherever there's a big mismatch, you're going to get cheating because the other partner is going to have more options to walk away. The thing is with women, by default, they have more options than men do. Just by default, they do. So what do you do as a man? If you have enough abundance, it's one of these weird things is like you having enough abundance protects you emotionally, but it also makes you more attractive. Like you being a man that other women find attractive, it actually mentally sort of gives you sort of this like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, a safety net. right? Like if you broke up with your girlfriend, you could find another girlfriend. There's a mental safety net in there. But also that mental, the belief of that from your partner makes you more attractive to her. That's why rule number 3 in MOA is abundance is almost always the answer. Unless you have a heroin addiction or a porn addiction, abundance is the answer.
Hey man, it's funny. I was seeing there's these 2 girls out there, these twins on Instagram, right? And they just started blowing up, and their boyfriends are like their boyfriends from high school, and everybody have been commenting like, they're gonna leave their boyfriends, man.
Of course.
And they're like, oh, I'm staying with my man. I'm, the fame doesn't matter. One of them hit 1 million followers on Instagram, and by the end of this year, she's like, oh, I'm single. Of course. Everybody's like, yo.
Of course.
The amount of athletes and like rappers in her DMs was like, it was inevitable. It sucks. I mean, it's just it's just how it is, man.
Take your credit card out and you charge it to the game. Just charge it to the game. Because the game, let me tell you something. Some dude is going to lose his girl to you, and he's going to need to charge it to the game. It's just the way the world works, man.
Yeah,
the way the world works.
It is what it is. It is what it is. But all right, Mike, I think you have answered. By the way, wait, what about like people in the Caribbean that want to be a part of your performance coaching thing? Or people in the Caribbean or Latin America?
Bro, not only can they be part of my performance coaching thing, I'm in the grill every fucking, and I'm in Hanover every September. Like it just we could do a meetup.
Paradise
Challenge.
Yeah.
So yeah, just, I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's no issue for that. Just go to moamentoring.com. And by the way, if you're not ready to join, just hit me up and I'll put you on our free school server. It's skool.com/men of action free. There's a hyphen in between each word. So it's men -action. But if you look that up, school.com/men of action free, you can join our free school server or just write me on Instagram and I'll give you the link to that. But yeah, man, that's the best way. If somebody wants to get in touch and check us out, you do have to schedule a call and then go through the different options for pricing and then figure out if this is for you. And if it's not for you, there's a ton of free stuff. Obviously, I do the podcast every day. We're doing Access Vegas twice this month. Okay. I have a free Monday call that I do where I actually do coaching. I do my regular MOA coaching, but I do it for free on YouTube.
Yeah, that call is awesome. I'm gonna plug that. It's a good call for men that are interested in it, man. I gotta say, Mike, as I said, I've been in this shit for years, man. The thing that always held me back was just like the pricing. It was always kind of like, man, this is expensive. But I think
we're aware, and that's why, like, at some point, we're gonna try to do something about that, like have something for everyone. But yeah, the majority of our clients are North American or European because of that. We don't have a lot of Indian. Like I have like 2 Indian clients. Let me say this again. I have 100 Indian clients, but like Indian clients who live in India, I have like 2. I have a ton of Brazilian clients, but I just don't have any Brazilian clients who live in Brazil. I have Brazilian clients who live in the United States and make a lot of money. That's the difference.
Oh, I remember you were saying something about passport bros because it's funny. As I said, man, I've grown up in the Caribbean, so I see it so many times. I see these like old white men they come to the beach and they bring these young girls. And as a native, someone that, well, I mean, I'm dual citizenship. I'm American and Jamaican. But like, you see it and you're like, oh, that's kind of nasty. But then you understand when you've lived in foreign countries, you understand there's kind of a exotic factor, but a lot of it can be like fetishized. But how much of like the passport bros do you think is like genuine? Do you believe, how much of the passport bro is genuine like charisma game, or is it a crutch for some men? Kind of like,
yeah, I don't think for anyone it isn't a crutch. I think it's a crutch for everyone. But the thing is, like, is it wrong or right? If you are legitimately going to another country because American women are too hard for you, or they're just like you just don't see them as being quality, and you go to another country because you want to find a good woman who's been with few men and has a lot of morals and values and is going to make a good wife to you. If you legitimately are doing that, I don't have a problem with that. I don't. I think that you may be a little nearsighted or you may be a little short-sighted when it comes to that. But if that's what you're doing, I believe that's awesome. I think that's the minority of guys. I think the majority of them are going out there, and while they're on their way looking for their wife, they're going to fuck 30 or 40 prostitutes in Medellin. I think that's generally what is happening. And it's, and the reason why I know I hit a nerve is because the fucking passport bros started making videos about me. Like apparently I hit someone's nerve. No one should be allowed to be a passport bro if you're above 14% body fat.
I think it's a crutch, man. I feel like it's a crutch. Because I've heard so many guys say that like, the women, American women are drama. Even some men here.
Dude, I know some guys who think American women are drama. They're good with American women. They slept with a lot of them, might even be married to one. And then they go to Brazil or they go to Colombia and then they fuck prostitutes. But they're not sitting there trying to pretend like they're trying to find a good woman out there.
It's a cult. Yeah. Okay, so one last question, Mike, in terms of, so I feel like you've set your goals and you've accomplished them. I remember I saw an interview with Tyler Durden. I think Owen is his real name. When he was saying that he had gotten so much accomplished and he still felt like, I remember you were talking about the happiness hypothesis, or that every man has a baseline for their happiness. Damn. How do you feel? Like, how do you feel in terms of your goals and your accomplishments? Like, are you content, or do you still feel like there's more growth?
There's room for growth, and I'm content. So both things are true. Like in a day-to-day basis, I'm happy. So when I'm at home and it's me and my animals and my girlfriend, or we're watching a movie, in that moment I am content because I know how to turn it off. That's one of the skills I've learned in my life, is like I know when it's time to work and when it's time to turn it off. And because I've been able to delineate the two, that made me much happier person. When we're working, I want better. I want more. I'm like Caleb in the Old Testament. Like I want the big grapes. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. Caleb, who was with Moses, when we were like talking about going to kill the Canaanites, he's like, no, man, those people had milk, the land and milk and honey. That's the shit we want right there. That was me. I'm ambitious. I'm ambitious. And so when it comes to that, when it's work mode, then you're right. I'm not satisfied. I'm also happy. I'm very happy accomplishing those goals. When it's fun home mode, I'm also satisfied, but in a different way. Make sense?
Yeah, no, what you say makes sense. Okay, cool. Okay. You're a Christian? Like you believe in God, or is it like, or
I do. I do not believe in a strict interpretation of the Old Testament. But I believe in God. I just don't think the earth was created in 7 days. I think that's a metaphor.
Oh, okay, man. Yeah,
stuff
you
like
have to believe in everything, but I'm just curious.
I don't think when women go on their period, we need to cast them out to the edge of the city, like the shit like that. Like I don't think that God literally told the Israelites to go kill the Jezebites, the Amalekites, and the Canaanites. I don't think, and then rape their women. I don't believe God told them that. I think it's kind of a cope. But some of the other stuff I do believe. Yeah.
The Old Testament or New Testament, sure. Yeah. We could talk about like dating in the church and how sexuality is repressed, but that's another thing.
Yeah.
But all right, I'm gonna let you go do your thing, man. Thank you so much for this. I'm very excited. Really hope because a lot of therapists are very curious about, and then I think you answered it very well. You spoke,
Stephen.
very well.
I'm gonna give you. Some I think would be a cool idea is if you could get like 6 therapists on and then do a panel. And then have everyone discussing what they believe about this 3 women, 3 men, and then do a panel like that. I think it'd be interesting.
If I can find 3 male therapists, man, I know like 2.
They're just me, like me as a performance coach, and you, and then 4 women is fine. We can do that.
Okay, no problem, man. Definitely, man. Mike, thank you so much, brother.
Of course.